I have some very exciting news. This past year has been the absolute craziest year of my life. I worked harder than I ever have before, maintaining a job as a music and psychology teacher at a high school, recording vocals at home, writing songs for other artists, collaborating, playing a gig about every week, flying back and forth to California to work with different producers in LA, performing for thousands of people at events that I can't believe I even booked, and more recently, releasing an EP and throwing a EP release party that was so successful and going on an East Coast tour. I took this last month off from music in order to reflect on everything that I had learned from going on tour and essentially working myself to the bone to see what I was capable of. And in this time of reflecting, I made a very big decision. There was a time in my life where I didn't believe in myself at all. I always used music as a way to cope with things that I was going through in life, but I never saw it as something that I would be good enough to pursue as a full-time job. I always thought it was a far-fetched dream that everybody had, and even if I tried really hard, I'd probably end up poor and alone. This was because of a combination of feeling like I never fit in, being predictably bullied because I was just as weird as I am now, and I did not have the best relationship with my body. I found solitude in music. It was never something that I wanted to do to gain attention or make money. And by the way, if you are joining the music industry because you think you're gonna make money, you should probably quit now. I started accepting the fact that I was who I was, and if people didn't like me, then I probably didn't want them in my life anyways. I developed my voice, I learned how to produce in GarageBand, and I made plans to release my music. When I got into college, I decided to settle for a normal career, and I got a really nice scholarship on the pre-dental track. Yup, I was gonna work on teeth for the rest of my life. Fortunately for me, the crushing realization that I was completely spitting in my metaphorical childhood dream's face was enough for me to neglect that path and eventually change my major to music. Eventually, I released a 15-track album in 2019. During this same time, I actually ended up getting another one of my dream jobs at one of the biggest tech companies in the world. My job was teaching music production. As I was entering my senior year of college, it felt like everything made sense. But then the whole world stopped. COVID not only robbed me of walking the stage at graduation, but it took me away from all of my friends. The pivotal moment that really made me change was when I looked at myself and decided, if I really want to do this, then I need to take myself seriously. It almost felt like I had a clean slate to look at myself in the mirror and decide whether or not I really meant it. So I ended up conceptualizing an entire project about the stories of the Bible and how they related specifically to women and mental illness. I drew up storyboards, I hired a dance team, I ordered props and costumes, and I made an entire 3-part music video for this album. The year after COVID, the city of Buffalo reignited with a love for music. People missed going out to bars so much that the demand for live music was soaring. I made a point to go to every single concert I could, to meet as many people as I could, to learn from as many shows as possible. So when I was offered a teaching job, how could I possibly say no? It wasn't easy, clearly, but I was gonna make it happen. I said yes to everything. Small gigs, opening gigs, charity events, headliners, big and small, If somebody wanted me to be part of something, I was certainly going to say yes. After working with several different musicians in the Buffalo area, I actually met Busco. We played over 50 shows that year. There were times where I would be in the studio until 3 a.m. and then come into school at 7:30 the next day. Eventually, we began writing our own music about a year ago from today. And at this time, Busco told me he had to tell me something. This past year of playing music so much had made him completely fall back in love with it, and that he needed to move back to California. And I looked at him and I said, of course you need to, knowing that this was going to change his life and ultimately change mine. I planned to visit Busco in order to make music with him and his connections in LA. Throughout those 4 days in LA, I wrote over 20 songs. It was also during this trip that I met Chris Lee for the first time. Chris opened my eyes to what possibilities were for me in the industry, and that day, me, Busco, and Chris wrote Tattoo. I knew I had to go back. The following trip, I recorded vocals for a Netflix series, met a handful of crazy engineers and producers, and I continued to write and hold my own in these places with these extremely talented people. That feeling of complete and utter joy continued to overwhelm me, and every single achievement, I felt like I was just closer and closer and closer to becoming who I was. Working through all of this while also still being fully dedicated to my students and working as a teacher at a high school was absolutely insane. I was not only teaching, but performing every weekend and posting on social media at least 3 times a day. It definitely took a toll on my health, but I knew that this would lead me closer to my dream. I either meant it or I didn't. What I've learned from all of this is that a week of time in LA is simply not enough in order to achieve what I know is possible for me. I'm going to take myself seriously. It is with great excitement, fear, but mostly that undeniable joy that I want to announce that for the summer of 2023, I will be packing up my car and driving across the country to move into a house in Los Angeles, California. During this time, I will be attempting to nail down a job as a full-time songwriter, make connections in the music industry, and pursue my artist career. There is only one way to find out if this is possible for me, and I appreciate your support. My last show in Buffalo will be June 16th at Buffalo Ironworks, and I would love to see you before I take on this crazy adventure. If you'd like to support this journey, there is a GoFundMe link in the description of this video. I am a full-time teacher, so I saved as much as I could for this trip, but I am really going on blind faith here. Or if you would like to buy my merchandise, I actually have all of this new merch. This, for example, is the Who I Am Now hoodie. It's got a really cool design on the back. And I have a bunch of other things on my website if you want to check it out. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you live in Buffalo, I hope to see you at my last show, June 16th at Buffalo Ironworks. And if this is the first time we're meeting, be sure to subscribe to follow along the journey, and remember to take yourself seriously. It's right.